Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
Welcome back to Going In Raw Matt Chat. This is, of course, where you get to see the Friendoverse in action, sending us video questions. And, of course, we get those questions from our patrons at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. $20 a month gets you not only the Friendo Care Package, not only does it give you tons of bonus content, it also allows you to film a video question or send us a text question. We'll answer it right here every month on Matt Chat. We got a lot of questions to get into. What's that face you're giving me right now?
Because my chair is sinking.
Oh no! Bye, Larson. Looks like I'm by myself today. Maybe not. Anyways, yeah, that's you can't. You got to fix it. You can't replace it, man. Because that's a comfy chair you got going on there.
It's a nice chair, but it's not so comfortable if I have to do the whole show like this. Like I'm.
You look like a child.
An elementary school student sitting behind an adult desk.
You look like a really old child.
Yep.
All right. Anyways, our first question is a bit of a serious one from our good friendo and mod, Winemaker. Let's see what Winemaker has to say live from his van.
Hello, Stephen Larson, Winemaker here. Now, my Matt Chat question this month is all about the rather serious topic of how do we clean up wrestling with the scandals that have been dogging the internet of the last week or so. How do we give confidence to female performers or females just around wrestling that they're not going to be taken advantage of by egotistical divs? It's been a tough week because there's a lot of people that have been called out that I have paid money to see, had photos with, and now I'm just like, no, you're done. I've got nothing to do with you. So I know it's a bit of a downer, but how do we clean this up, and how do we move forward in a really progressive way to show female performers and females around wrestling that they're not what they have been used for with regards to the degenerates that have been around wrestling. I'm not naming names because I don't want to libel you guys. So please just give me your thoughts. It's not a debate question. It's just, what do we do? What do we do? Too sweet. Hearty handshake.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Wayne has a ton of Progress Wrestling shirts. And he's obviously a big fan, as he says here in the video, there in the UK wrestling scene. And so obviously this is something that really hits close to home for him. However, I'm going to say this, man. I think that this whole thing I view as an opportunity for a lot of positive things to come out of it. I think what we're seeing now, man, is basically sort of a purge of sorts, not like the movie or the TV series, but, social media is being, in a positive way, weaponized against, as Wayne calls it, these degenerates. We've already seen companies start to make changes that seemingly and hopefully are changes not just superficially, but changes at the top throughout the system there in the UK. And I see a lot of opportunity here, man. I think that if there are it seems like there's actual schools that are maybe closing. There are lots of trainers who are being sort of, kicked out of the system. And when I see that, I see opportunity. I see opportunity for wrestlers who maybe we've seen positive stories about, or wrestlers who have good reputations. They might see this as an opportunity to say, hey, I've got this good reputation. Let me do something with it. I know that I can do this in a way that can be beneficial, that can be positive. Let me go ahead and open up my own school. You can see this as a business opportunity as well. If these schools were successful and they're gone, there's no reason why there still can't be schools that are as successful but run by the right people. I think that one thing that we need to keep in mind is the WWE's presence in the UK, and we've seen names like Ligero and Travis Banks already been terminated from their WWE contracts. There probably will be more, you would think. WWE needs to step up in this situation. You know, they're a $1 billion company who went into the UK, basically transformed the UK scene. I know it's debatable. Some people said for the worse, some people say for the better. But regardless, they have basically transformed the UK scene. Why wouldn't they then step up and start, you know, they obviously have the Performance Center, but that's for the people coming in to the NXT UK. Why don't they start, you know, other schools that are smaller that can feed up into the WWE Performance Center? Why don't they start smaller schools with a heavy HR presence? Why don't they bring people out like Lance Storm, who I've heard a ton of really positive stories. This guy can manage, can oversee an operation like that. I mean, whether or not he'd want to, I don't know. But that's where you start. You want to hire more women in positions of power. I think the WWE came in, they changed the UK scene. Now it needs to help rebuild the UK scene. I feel like there's an opportunity there, and hopefully this is the much needed darkness before, you know, you rebuild into a more positive thing. And in a couple of years, you'll have a scene that's thriving and doing it the right way.
Doing it the right way and providing a safe environment for all workers. You know, you mentioned we've seen numerous promotions kind of take a step back and suspend operations in order to kind of reevaluate their standards, their practices, how they can improve the culture of their promotions or their training schools, whatever the venue or company may be, in an effort to find, as I mentioned, find a better way to create a safe working environment for everybody. And that's the necessary first step, but it's got to be continuous. They just can't do it, say, we're going to do this, put the statement out, and then essentially pay lip service to the idea of worker safety. They have to follow through. They have to be vigilant. It's got to take dedication, and it's got to be actively practiced. And it's imperative that workers feel safe speaking out in the event something happens without fear of any retaliation.
Yeah.
Numerous times in these stories, we hear about people who've had something awful happen to them, but they're afraid of speaking out for fear of some sort of retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's all about worker safety for everybody. It's all about safety for the fans who are there too. It's about safety. People want to go to a wrestling show and feel safe. They want to have a good time. And if there's anything in the way that's making that impossible, you got to get out of the equation. And the next question from Joshua Martinez, we can go into a bit more, but you know, I don't know if there's some way to put together some sort of regulatory body to improve working conditions for professional wrestlers. I don't know. You mentioned Lance Storm earlier, and again, I'll get to this more in the next question. He had a series of tweets about the possibility of that. So anyways, let's go to Joshua Martinez's question. We can get into it more there.
Hey, friendos. So with the allegations coming out and the stories of, you know, the speak out movement, I brought this up before on the mod chat, but I was wondering, do you think it would benefit, and how could they come about? You know, maybe not on the sport level. I don't know how you would do that, but at least at the company level, some type of summit and maybe pause production for at least a week, or I don't know, for a while, and basically come together and say, you know, this culture of wrestling kind of let all this bad stuff happen. How can we move forward addressing these issues and working to make sure that this doesn't happen again? You know, and again, this goes with all companies, you know, WWE, AEW, independent companies. It would be great if they could have some type of summit with all the big companies and smaller independent companies and do it on a sport level. I don't really see that happening, but just a thought. Is that something you think, A, could it be possible? B, how could they do it? Thanks, friendos.
Thank you, Joshua Martinez.
Thank you, Joshua. So ideally, yes, it'd be great if wrestling promotions from around the world would gather together and come up with standards that all promotions should operate under. And I, you know, you think if they'd go through the trouble of getting together, negotiating standards that ensure worker safety for everybody, they would follow through with it. That would be the ideal. As I mentioned, Lance Storm, I forgot the conversation. I could look it up here. Maybe I will in a second. How we got to the topic of a regulatory body. And he made several good points, but ideally it would be a situation where people can report things anonymously. Promotions wouldn't be involved, he said, although if there's not going to be any sort of international regulatory body, I would think, governing pro wrestling. I think that's too I don't know if politically if that's possible. So if it were to happen on an international level, it would have to be a joint effort between, I would think, promotions, wrestlers. They would have to form some sort of committee to run the thing that is representative of the world of professional wrestling, and diverse. Ideally it'd be great. It would be great if some sort of summit or regulatory body could happen to be created. The issue is Vince would not allow WWE to be a part of it.
Well, okay, so I'll just go ahead and take over from there, man. It's got to start with the WWE, and it won't. But the only way it'll work is if WWE started taking this stuff. If WWE became the public face and the very serious public face of this. I mean, one thing that we saw with the Chris Benoit thing was a more strict wellness policy with the WWE, and I mean, I don't know, man, you hear all sorts of different things about their wellness policy, but I mean, I don't think it can be argued that it's better now than it was pre-Benoit. The concussion protocols are better now than they were pre-Benoit. So I think if they took this with that level of seriousness, WWE could be, they want to be the standard in wrestling. They want to do that. They are trying to expand worldwide and be the standard. They want to be the Disney of wrestling. If they really want to take that seriously, then they will be the first biggest voice on this starting now. And they could do this. I mean, they could absolutely set the standard. They don't even have to collaborate internationally. If they set the standard and challenge everybody else to hold up to that standard, then I do believe that they would. That you would see that go out throughout the wrestling world. We've seen with their response to the pandemic that they have no interest in leading the right way. They don't, because if they did, they'd be testing. They would have been doing this before AEW was doing it.
Well, they probably would have shut down, honestly.
Yeah,
they would have ceased production.
They would have done whatever is responsible that needs to be done. So, but they don't. So I don't know. Maybe if this was we've heard that there are voices in the room telling Vince that have told Vince in the past, hey, we should shut down. Once Vince is gone, those voices might be the voices that are the prominent ones in the company.
It's entirely possible.
And I really do believe that the corporate philosophy starting from just under Vince is probably one that would be a lot more responsible than it is now, where Vince is the end all be all, and he's doing this stuff. And it's so old school, and it's so don't tell me what to do, and who cares about corporate culture. So once Vince, again, a lot relies on when Vince is gone, but when Vince is gone, it would not shock me if we had more of a, I'm not going to say progressive by any means, but I definitely more in keeping with, less of an old school mentality and something that people could get behind. So I think that it should start with the WWE. I just don't think it's going to.
That Lance Storm Twitter exchange was with John Pollock, post wrestling with John Pollock.
Yeah, no, I read that. It's really good. People should check it out.
It's really good. Going back to what you said, pretty much is as long as Vince is around, history has dictated WWE won't necessarily do the right thing.
Yeah.
And as much as it would be great to see them lead an effort like this, I'm pessimistic they will do so.
Yeah. Next,
Christopher Rampersad.
Hello, Stephen Larson. So my question is, what should Raw and SmackDown do when fans are allowed to come back to arenas and stuff? like what fun ideas Raw and SmackDown should do, who stars they should bring back to hype up the crowd and make the crowd feel good and have that great energy vibe. To me, I think, you should bring back Stone Cold, or maybe you can get The Rock if you can, to get that home welcome. Or even have Vince come out. What do you guys think? Let me know.
Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Christopher. I would say this. I think that when they return, I mean, it should be a big celebratory thing, but I think that WWE should take the opportunity to maybe, relook at their presentation and say, hey, how can we make this maybe a little less slick and a little more, as they love to use the term these days, gritty, while maintaining the family-friendly thing that they're going for. I think that there are certain presentational changes that we've seen in empty arena era. Like I'll give you an example. Last week, or this past week's Raw with Edge's promo, chances are that would have been done in front of an audience. Instead, they chose a way to film it stylishly, with like a nicer lens, with more dramatic lighting, and an empty ring, with just like a spotlight on Edge, and it's in close up. And it's very effective. They've done several of these things. So I think that WWE needs to look at their presentation and say, hey, not every promo needs to be, in front of the crowd. Not every interaction needs to be with that awkward, unmotivated backstage camera. You can leave the arena. You can do stuff outside, put it up on the Tron. The fans will still like it, and it'll add your TV. It'll add some more dimension to your TV product. I think they need to relook at their presentation. I think this is a great opportunity to do that. And I also think that internally they either furloughed or laid off tons of production people. I think if they're going to start rehiring writers, they need to look at who they're rehiring. They need to rebuild a young creative staff and build that for the future, and hire more diversity, or be more diverse with your hirings, if you will. So that's what I think they should do when they come back.
All great ideas. I'm going to go a far more superficial approach with my answer.
Good.
Moving is a situation where a celebration is in order, as in things are back to normal for the most part. The specter of pandemic isn't looming over the whole thing. You can actually fill every seat in the arena. Then they're going to go, it's going to be a huge celebratory thing. I'm talking all the pyro, like WrestleMania levels of pyrotechnics.
But inside an indoor arena,
which is probably,
like a huge
not
fire
advisable.
hazard. But it's okay. It's okay.
They're celebrating.
They're celebrating.
You got to have like a wild card final level of titles on the line. We
equal
had Championship
to
Monday.
or greater than WrestleMania. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So we had Championship Monday on Raw this last week. Double that, every title.
So you're talking about like a Saudi show, but in America.
But on Raw, yes.
On Raw.
And then you got to bring out, Christopher mentioned this, you got to bring out all the legends. You got to get Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker, Goldberg, Lesnar, of course.
Wow.
Just bring them all out.
Huge. Open up.
It'd be great to do
CM Punk.
Yeah, sure, Punk. Yeah, open the wallet, get CM Punk. It'd be great to take this opportunity as kind of a relaunch, reset, change up the presentation. Because the visual language of WWE's product hasn't really changed for the better part of 40 years. It'd be great if they could change it, considering Vince is still there in charge and Bruce Pritchard's his right-hand man. Not confident that's going to happen, but it'd be great if it did.
It's more likely what you're saying, bringing back The Undertaker and Stone Cold, than what I'm saying, but I really think they should do that stuff too.
They totally should do that, 100%.
Let's see.
Why not do both? You could take the changes of presentation, hire a more diverse, group and creative, and then also do all the fireworks and title matches and legends. Do it all.
Yeah, I like spectacle. Spectacle's good.
I like fireworks.
Yeah, I don't. Philly Flexer has a question, and I think this is a good one. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey guys, this is your boy Philly Flex with my Match Chat question this week, and I was just wondering, do you think people have forgotten that WWE is made for kids and adults? And I say that because a lot of people were bashing the Street Profits versus Viking Raiders segments today, this past couple of weeks, and I just kind of feel like that's unfair or whatnot, because my little sister and my son or whatnot was laughing at it endlessly. Every time it's popped up from the pay-per-view on or whatnot, they have laughed at it, especially the ninjas. So I don't know. Have people forgotten that WWE is not just made for adults, but kids too? Too sweet, hearty handshake, too good, all that stuff there, brother.
Thank you, Philly Flexer.
Thank you, Philly Flexer. You go, Larson.
When I think about, for example, just my reaction to some things WWE has done of late, I thought the Street Profits Viking Raiders segments were a bit hit or miss. Some were funny, and some kind of missed the mark, I felt like. And while those segments probably didn't exactly speak to me, I remember a conversation I heard. I don't remember the context or where I heard it. It's just stuck with me for some reason. Where it was a conversation about the Star Wars prequels. Now, me being in my 40s, I grew up with the original trilogy. And so I don't really look upon the Star Wars prequels fondly. However, for the generation that grew up when those movies were released, that is Star Wars to them. So while in my mind, despite its faults and its misses, in my mind, Attitude Era wrestling is peak wrestling. That's where core wrestling memories were forged.
Yeah.
And that's the part of professional wrestling that I look back the most fondly upon. Even though if I go back and revisit some of that stuff, I'd probably think, what's so great about this?
You know what though? Sometimes I go back and watch if nothing else, the enthusiasm in the building is off the flipping charts.
It's unmatched.
There's
a lot of great stuff. Creatively, a lot of great stuff that happens back then.
Yeah.
So it's every generation has their own definition of what wrestling is to them. Right now, we're in an era where WWE is trying to appeal to the broadest possible demographic. They want to appeal to adults. They want to appeal to kids. And so they have to program accordingly. So is it easy to forget that WWE is trying to program for the broadest possible demographic? Yes, it is easy to forget that. But it's something that I think us older viewers have to keep in mind. Because apparently the older viewers make up a dominant portion of WWE's viewing audience.
Yeah.
If the demos are being believed. So, that's a different conversation. Is WWE's approach to appealing to the broadest possible demographic actually working?
Yeah.
That's another debate to be had, but I just think it's a situation where we got to remember that WWE is trying to get as many eyeballs in front of its product, and some stuff will appeal to us on a creative level, some won't, and it just is what it is.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say also, like, the criticism that you're hearing is probably from a very specific demographic. I don't see a lot of, like, kids going on Twitter to complain about this stuff in the general internet wrestling community. I could be wrong, but I think when I see the general complaints about stuff like the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders vignettes, I imagine it's going to be from people who are the standard wrestling fan who probably just isn't interested in that stuff. That's not to say that there aren't fans of that stuff, but they're just probably not vocalizing it in a place where you would be like paying attention to. I know I certainly wouldn't be. So yeah, I would keep that in mind too, is like the wrestling community on Twitter is its own bubble, echo chamber, whatever, what have you. It is a specific demographic. So yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind also.
Yep. Next, got a question from the Going In Rob Observer. Take it away, Rob.
Oh, the best.
Hey guys, Rob Observer here. This is my ceiling. I don't look too good today. I'm feeling a bit under weather, but look, I'm here. Look here, yeah, all good. Anyway, my question is, AEW and AAA, has this relationship been mutually beneficial, and have they kind of dropped the ball with maybe talent sharing and whatnot? I know that the pandemic's on and all that, but they had the agreement before, in a few months. I don't know. Is it a missed opportunity? No Dr. Wagner Jr. or anything? What do you think, friendos? Anyway, too sweet, Harley handshake. Oh.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. So I'm gonna say this, man. It just sometimes feels like AEW and okay, I'll put it this way. Actually, it feels like AAA exists in a universe all to its own, which is one reason why we love it so much. We venture into AAA a couple times a year to see the insanity play out, and I don't know. I just don't know that business-wise, them existing on such a different plane than AEW would really pay off if they attempted more of a talent exchange. Would I love to see that kind of stuff? Yeah. But I'm not sure that business-wise they would really. It's not like AAA has the same kind of crossover appeal that, that would have the same kind of appeal as a New Japan talent crossover. A lot of AEW fans, I would assume the vast majority of AEW fans would also be New Japan fans. So when you see that kind of talent exchange, that's a huge buzz moment. That's a massive buzz moment given the history of the company. AAA is a little bit different. They exist, in such its own universe that I'm not sure a talent exchange would really work wonders for AEW. Obviously, Kenny Omega, big name, going to AAA. He's their mega champion. It's probably working wonders for them. I mean, they've kept him as mega champion for a while now. I know pandemic might have, changed plans there. That's why maybe he's still champion. I don't know. But, I just don't know that business-wise it would really, maybe it's just a nut they haven't cracked yet. Maybe pandemic has played a big part in that. I mean, pandemic's been part of half of AEW's lifespan, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
So we might see it more once that's done with. I'd like to see it if they can crack a nut that really makes sense for them, creatively speaking.
Yeah, I think the creative aspect of it is probably what's proven to be difficult. Has it been a huge missed opportunity? Yeah. We haven't seen Dr. Wagner in AEW. I know he's kind of on the outs with AAA anyways, but for that reason, if nothing else, it's been a huge missed opportunity. Looking forward, assuming Cody has that TNT title for a bit, and he's probably going to have it for at least another 6 to 8 months, probably 8 to 10 months, to get us through the best case scenario pandemic phase. It would be great to see, say, Taurus show up, answer one of Cody's open challenges for that TNT title, because Taurus is awesome. There's a lot of really good talent in AAA, but the creative avenue by which for there to be crossover to an extent that is impactful for both companies and be impactful for what we see on television. Obviously, they haven't found what that is yet. And who knows
I feel like
the inner workings of AAA and AEW and how they could even come to an agreement if they even wanted to do some sort of larger creative plan together. How that would even pan out, I just don't know.
I feel like the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks were kind of like the pinnacle of a talent crossover, because the Lucha Brothers had already established a presence in North America and AEW's market, and so that's why it really did make sense. If there's other talent in AAA that sort of, maybe they go to New Japan, maybe they have they do a thing with New Japan, even though New Japan has a CMLL relationship, and that would probably preclude that from happening. But if somebody else ends up becoming a breakout star in the North American market, in AEW's market, then I could see that talent exchange making sense. It's just, look, if Taurus came over, that'd be great because he looks like somebody like that could fight Luchasaurus. But if the Clowns came over, I'm not sure the AEW audience would really respond in the way that would, benefit the company all that much. Yeah. Anyways, next up, Dirty Rich has a question. Let's see what Dirty Rich has to say.
Friendo's Rich here. Now, we have a lot of people with a lot of title reigns. What's more important, the amount of reigns or how long each individual reign lasted? Like Punk, he only has 2 reigns with the WWE title. One is the longest reign in modern era. I'm not counting Brock Lesnar because CM Punk showed up every week. But then you got Cena with 16 reigns. Some of his lasted about a year. And then he had a few reigns that lasted a couple weeks, or even he had one reign that lasted like 5 minutes. So just let me know, what's more important, the number of reigns or how long the reigns went?
Thank you, Rich.
I'll start.
Okay.
In my mind, the number of reigns is indicative of one's reliability. That means for a prolonged period of time, you've been on top. You've been the guy or close to the guy. That they know they can put the belt on you. You're going to be a quality champion. You're reliable. Put butts in seats. Get people to sit in front of the TV and watch that particular product. We saw with Ric Flair. Granted, the way they used to book back in the territory days was different than what we see now. It was different. How NWA approached it was vastly different how WWE did, WWF did. In the NWA days, they would put the belt on the heel for lengths of time, have faces chase after the heel. You get that moment where the face wins, or wins by countout or something like that, only for the heel to get the belt back and the chase resumes with somebody else. Whereas WWF, we saw with Bruno, with Hogan, especially, they put the belt on the face and just throw heel after heel after heel, and they'd conquer each heel in succession. Just different booking philosophy. But you can have. I mean, the case of Bruno is more or less an outlier. Someone who had the belt for a better part of 8 years. It's a testament to not only his reliability, his drawing power.
You're speaking on my subject now.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, it's number because it proves over the longer period of time that you're reliable. You're no flash in the pan. That's my point.
All right. I think it's length because Bruno had it for 8 years, and that's still straight. And that's still the standard that when people talk about, well, what kind of push is he going to get? The joke is, well, he's not going to get a Bruno push, because that's like, it's ridiculous. Even if you look at Hulk Hogan, they talk about, like, Hogan was the man really between, 85 or 83, I guess, to like
84 and 87.
Yeah, he won the title in 84.
I think he had it for about 1,500 days.
Yeah.
Longest reign.
So it's like you look at that, but then even if you can go all the way really to like Ultimate Warrior, from like 84 to like 1990 when he dropped it to Warrior as like him being on top. Now, was he the actual champion? No, but like, he could have been easily.
The only time in that stretch he didn't have the belt was that year that Macho Man had it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And that was probably at least partially motivated because Hogan was off shooting a movie. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I think that the two most impressive records in wrestling, in modern wrestling, well, I guess not modern, but in wrestling history, really, from like the 70s on, let's say that, is Ric Flair's number of world title reigns. I'm sorry, it's the number and the length of Bruno Sammartino's title reign. I think those are the two biggest numbers. And I don't really think that, like, one, I guess that Bruno's is more impressive than the other, but Ric Flair's, like you said, they just did stuff different in the NWA.
Yeah.
It was the babyface always chasing the heel champion. So I think that, honestly, it just washes out. I think that the bigger thing is the moments in pro wrestling. Like, Hogan Rock at WrestleMania 18. That didn't need a championship. Hogan Cena, granted the second one was for the championship, but it wasn't about the championship. They just threw the championship in there to try to make it a bigger deal, but it really wasn't. It was Cena having the torch passed from The Rock, and it was really a 3-year story that they told. End of an era. That concluded a 4-year story that had nothing to do with the title. Hogan slamming Andre, yeah, that was for the title, but really it was the unbeatable, the undefeated Andre the Giant finally being bested by Hulk Hogan. The title was, it was there. So I don't know, man. I think wrestling is always like about the stories, about the moments, not necessarily about the championships. If you see CM Punk, he had it for 460 whatever, 400 days, 430 whatever it was.
Days, yeah.
Days. And what happened with that? They just jobbed him out to The Rock real quick so that they can put the title on him to face Cena as just another level to their story. And it was
up the stakes
completely unnecessary. So
yeah,
it's about the moment, man. That's what it is. I mean, the moment of CM Punk winning it at Money in the Bank meant more than the other 460 days he had the championship. So, yeah, there you go.
Next, got a question from a debut Matt Chatter, Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Hey, Steve, Larson in the Friendoverse. Stevie Ray. No, not that one. With my first Matt Chat question. With Cody bringing the TNT Championship Open Challenge, I think it'd be cool if some of his challengers came asking for certain stipulations, too. And I think this would be a cool way for Cody to bring back some old school stipulation matches that we haven't seen in a while. So my match chat question is, what are some old school wacky stipulations that have long since been forgotten that you guys would like to see brought back to the TNT Open Challenge, and who would bring them back? For me personally, I'd really like to see Lance Archer challenge him to a coal miner's glove match with, Jake the Snake connection to Halloween Havoc 91. I think they would just fit perfectly. But I'd love to know what you guys think. So, No too sweet. No hearty handshake. Freebird knuckle bump. Have a good day.
Thank you, Stevie Ray.
Thank you. I thought that when you said Stevie Ray, it was going to be Harlem Heat Stevie Ray. But this is great, too. This is awesome. So anyways, what old school stipulations do I... This is easy. The Lance Archer's name, he's the Murder Hawk. So do a good old-fashioned Texas death match right up Cody's alley. He loves to bleed. I feel like the Cody-Lance Archer match... That the final for that TNT Ugly Championship.
Oh, it needed way more blood.
Come on, that was a joke. That was an absolute joke. The way they built that was a joke. This needs to be a cinematic Texas death match. That's what it needs.
They should have it. They should have it in the ring out in Lance Archer's ranch. That's where it should be.
Yep. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
I'll take it a step further. Well, I have a different answer, but for yours, take it back. So, what motivated Texas death match between Cactus Jack and Vader? Spin the wheel, make the deal. That's what you got to do. Get the wheel out there, spin it, whatever stipulation it lands on, that's what you do. One of the other stipulations on that wheel could be my idea, blindfold match. You can do that cinematically.
Terrible.
You get Cody versus Archer. You put blindfolds on. They got to stumble around, try to fight. Hey, man, you got Jake Roberts, who was in the original blindfold match, or at least the one in WWE against Rick Martel. And it's generally like mocked and laughed at. We watched it. It's actually pretty creatively put together.
I feel like our expectations were so low for that match.
It was, but the way they had to Jake especially was playing to the crowd to figure out where his opponent was. That's actually pretty damn creative.
Yeah, I don't want to see that match again.
I do.
Oh, well, let's see if another new Matt chatter, Dan B, wants to see that match again, or maybe he's got a different question. I don't know. Let's see Dan B.
Hey, friendos, it's your boy Dan B, the Wrestling Optimist, here with my latest Matt chat question. So I was watching the last episode of The Last Ride, as we all were, and I noticed when The Undertaker was gearing up for his match, he said that, God, I'm 55 years old and I'm still doing this. And I was like, damn, really? Well, yeah. But it also made me think, how many other wrestling matches were that good where one of the participants were that old? Because usually, you slow down considerably and you see the age. Like, the only time I could think of it was Flair, who was in his 50s when he came back to the WWE after the invasion. But what are some instances of really good wrestling matches with really old guys? Thanks.
Thank you, Dan B.
Thank you, Dan B.
Yeah, you
welcome
go
to
first.
Matt Chat.
Yeah, welcome to Matt Chat.
So, Ric Flair kind of set the gold standard for wrestlers. I guess he was probably in his 50s when he had his second run in WWE, putting on awesome matches. He had his match against Shawn Michaels, his retirement match, at least in WWE. That's a classic. His ladder match against Edge on Raw, classic. Even more recently, I know Batista isn't quite 50 yet. I think he was about 49 when he had his match against Triple H at Mania a couple years ago. Was it too long? Yeah. You can tell those guys were having a blast. There was some really fun, creative stuff in that. I enjoyed the heck out of that match, even though it was probably twice as long as it needed to be. But it was Batista's last match, so, you can let him be a bit indulgent in terms of how they put it together. So in my mind, it's a lot of the stuff Flair did in WWE the second time around, and then Batista versus Triple H. Those are the ones that came to mind for me.
Lou Thez had a match against Masahiro Chono when Lou Thez was 74 years old.
He wrestled forever.
He did. Holy crap, look at this. There's a Lou Thez versus Vern Gagne match. That's great. There's probably like a combined 200 years in that ring. So I don't know. What did I write down here? Let's see here. You had a lot of good ones. I don't know how really old they were at the time. They were both already kind of old at this point, but I always liked that Sting versus Flair was that last Nitro match.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was kind of cool.
So much history in that one match.
Yeah, tons of history there. Of course, who could forget the WCW Legends match, Slamboree 94, Wahoo McDaniel versus Dick Murdoch. That was great, too. That was actually not a good match.
No.
No, man, you named them all. Flair had just an epic run in WWE. It was ridiculous. The match.
I think his confidence was shot during a lot of that period.
I know. He had like the lowest. Like he talks about that incessantly these days. Like his confidence was crap. But man, he was putting on epic match after epic match,
just great match after great match.
Oh, just great stuff. That's the king. That's the real stuff right there.
We got a couple text questions. First from B-Man Patrick Sparks. He asked, "Is SummerSlam too soon for Killer Cross to get an NXT title shot?"
What's his name, Larson?
All Day Real Superstar Austin Theory, B-Man Patrick Sparks.
No, Karrion Cross. You said Killer Cross.
Oh, sorry.
Gotta get used to it. I know it's hard.
I get in the new routine of calling him Karrion. Karrion Cross get an NXT title shot. When's the right time and book a fun story? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, it's way too soon. He's super one-dimensional at this point. Like, they've had a lot of time. I feel like NXT, it's funny because I hear a lot of crowing about NXT on Twitter. I don't agree with it, man. I think it's a blast these days. However, one low point for me, oddly, is actually Karrion Kross. I think that his vignettes really haven't fleshed out anything of him at all. I feel like it's been a lot of smoke and mirrors, but I need to. It's the thing about NXT, man. You can get away with that stuff on main roster, but if you can't get yourself geeked up for a takeover level wrestling match, then you kind of shouldn't be there. Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like.
Well, it remains to be seen. You know, we haven't seen Karrion Kross's work enough to judge whether he could pull off a great takeover level match, because definitely what we see in NXT is not a strong enough sample size to base an opinion one way or the other.
Okay, so I'll say this. I've seen probably roughly same number of Karrion Kross matches pre-NXT as I did Walter matches, Matt Riddle matches, and I feel like they had a ton more wrestling buzz prior to them joining the WWE than Kross does. Kross is he's a lot new. I don't know. Didn't he just debut like a couple years ago or something?
I think 4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, look, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm saying the same could be said about Keith Lee, too. I'm saying that so far, I haven't seen it. And if I haven't seen it yet, I can't say that SummerSlam, it would be an appropriate time. I haven't seen it. And I'll be kind of bummed out, to be honest with you, if Keith Lee ends up becoming double champ next week, and then at the next takeover at SummerSlam, let's say, at the SummerSlam takeover, whatever that's going to be, or the next one, if they rush Killer Kross into the situation, and then he drops Keith Lee with a Saito suplex or whatever, and then he wins both the titles, I'm gonna be like, dude, what the hell? This is crap. Like, that is not. Now, if he has a great match, if he's got, I'm like, oh my god, this guy can do a lot of really cool stuff, and he can tell a really compelling story.
Yeah, telling the story.
I don't need a Goldberg in my NXT, man. I think Goldberg fits in, the Goldberg idea. I think that fits in really well. The Brock Lesnar idea fits in really well with main roster, and I'm okay with that, because with main roster, like, you can do that. NXT, especially the top, man, it's been just it's a 5-star match title. Yeah. And if you can't do that, not into it. And so far, I haven't seen it.
Maybe they're gonna reinvent the main event scene and Killer Kross's image in NXT for a bit. Who knows?
That could be. That could be
more sports entertainment centric and less pro wrestling focused.
That could be. That'd be a bummer, in my opinion.
Creatively, I agree. They're relying on the fact that he has a really cool entrance. And just because he beat Tommaso Ciampa in 2 minutes, we're supposed to think that he could destroy anyone. Like, week in and week out, he should just be obliterating people. I don't think they've done enough to separate him as this unstoppable force of nature in NXT. Which based on especially his match against Bronson Reed, is what they're really doing.
Yeah,
like, he took Bronson Reed's best, no-sold it, and destroyed him. Now we need to see that week after week, escalating violence, stiffer competition. And so by the point you have this inevitable clash between Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, Karrion Kross has just run through everybody. And then Keith Lee is the one that steps up to him and is the guy that brings the match out of him that we need to see. So then that scenario, you got Karrion Kross walk into that match as legitimate. Like, he's run through everybody. And Keith Lee threw his best at him. He got a 20-minute stellar match out of him, but just still couldn't do it because Karrion Kross is basically unstoppable.
Yeah.
2-3 months, not sure that's enough time to get that done. But if you have him have a match every week, and you continually up the competition level for him, and he's just wiping the floor with everybody, it's possible.
Yeah.
They just don't seem dedicated enough to the idea of what he's supposed to be to push that home every week. Like, he should be going through Damian Priest, Dijak. People like, imagine a match between Dijak and Karrion Kross. You want to show off in 5-8 minutes potentially what Karrion Kross could do.
So here's
the ring with Dijak.
I feel like they're kind of doing the inverse of what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
So like Keith Lee, they're booking so strong these days, super strong. Like, everybody tries to chop him down and nobody can.
Yeah.
And it's going to get to Adam Cole. They built up Adam Cole to be like the king, right? And Keith Lee might obliterate Adam Cole. And then the guy that steps up to the guy who's already obliterated everybody is going to be the guy that you're saying should have been obliterating everybody. He's going to step up to Keith Lee.
You have Cross and Lee on parallel paths just obliterating everybody, so their clash seems inevitable,
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think, in that case, who's the Clubber Lang and who's the Rocky? There is none. It's like two Clubber Langs. It's like if Clubber Lang and what's his name, Drago?
Yeah.
If they're on parallel paths. We never got that movie. Where's that movie?
Oh, that'd be something else.
Get Sly. Sly can helmet. He can go behind the lens. Of
There
course,
you go.
they're all like super old now, so it's not going to happen.
No.
How great would it be if they brought? Oh wait, Mr. T's dead, isn't he?
Is he?
Is he dead? Did I just make that up? Mr. T. Oh, whew, he's alive.
Oh yeah, I did think he'd passed.
Man.
We got one final text question from A.O. Worm. He asked, once the crowds come back and they clean up the rosters, will WWE continue with the pre-recorded matches? What say you, Steve?
Why don't they bring back Clubber Lang for that Creed franchise?
It's a good question.
Wait, what's the question? I'm sorry.
Pre-recorded matches, should they stick around?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. House of, man, I was ahead of my time. I was the one who was into House of Horrors. That match was rad. It was just a little horror flick. That was cool. So yeah, they should. I think that we're not going to see it for the big matches like Money in the Bank. We're not going to see that again. Vince likes to reward the people who bought the tickets that are there live. He understands that keeps the crowd going and that translates on TV. So we're not going to see them nearly as much. I think we should see them. I think the closest thing that we're going to get, though, is probably characters like The Fiend. I think work really well in the cinematic atmosphere. Beyond that, I really don't see them sticking around. I think right now it's sort of just a crutch that they're doing because I understand that the rest of the show, like the empty arena stuff, just really, with an exception here and there, is just lacking a crowd, is just not great. And so, yeah, I think that they're going to be around for now. But once the arenas are back, they're going to go back to the tried and true.
Yeah, probably for the most part. But, there's if a story and it dictates a different approach to a match and they want to go the cinematic route, heck yes. By and large, they've been pretty entertaining. Boneyard match was fun. Firefly Funhouse match was utterly brilliant. Money in the Bank match was tons of fun. I feel like on the main roster, they've had better luck with them than they have in NXT, oddly enough. But yeah, if the story dictates it and there's a creative, interesting approach they could take to it, that'll entertain fans at home as well as the fans in the arena, by all means, yes, let's do it.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.